Thanks for taking the time to attending this webinar, and thanks for from IOI to hosting this. I'm, again, as Jill said, my name is Timo. I'm the product manager of Xinet, and I'm here today with James Ward to show you the exciting new features in the Xinet 18.1 release. First of all, I'm going to quickly talk through the contents, just so you are aware of what you can expect in the next hour or so. We're going to talk a little bit about the third-party software support that we've added in 18.1. This is just like the normal homework that we do to stay compatible with all the software packages around us. We'll talk about some database updates and a lot about some usability refinements for the Marquee site, as well as for Xinet Pilot. That's actually been a focus for this release. There's a brand new Xinet Pilot application with a long list of user interface enhancements, and we're going to walk through those in great detail in a few minutes. There's a new business rules engine that we've introduced in this release, and we've also come up with a new central online documentation. That's really helpful. So let us just jump right in to the first chapter. We have the third-party software support, as I mentioned before. This is just kind of the homework that we do, and to stay compatible with the changing software packages around us. So of course, as you know, we always try to stay compatible with the current OS 10, OS 10 releases, with the most current InDesign releases, and so on. So in Xinet 18.1, we've added support for OS 10, 10.11 for the Capitan clients. We've also added support for Adobe Creative Cloud 2015.2. So what that means is that our InDesign plugins now support InDesign documents saved with that version, Adobe CC 2015.2. We're also scheduled for the next Adobe CC 2016 release that we're expecting sometime in June, I believe. So we're expecting that, and of course we're planning to release compatible plugins for that release as well. We have added support for Samba 4 versions in our PC connectivity module. Samba 4, I think it's 4.1 or 4.3, I'm not exactly sure. This is what you get installed by default on the Linux, Red Hat, or CentOS 7 versions. For the first time,
it looks like Samba 4.1 on Red Hat Linux 7.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, James. Then what we have for the first time, we're announcing official support for VMware. So you can, we know that you guys have been doing this for a longer time, but since 18.1, we're officially supporting to run the Xinet server as a virtual machine hosted on VMware ESXi hypervisors. And so you can run Xinet as an installed guest on a guest OS. And the one thing maybe that's important to keep in mind is that the MAC address, the network MAC address, needs to stay consistent for the Xinet server to work. You can do RAM and CPU changes. That's all fine. That will not change the license. But so that's officially supported now.
Okay, Timo, that's really great, because that makes Xinet much more in line with current practices in the industry, right? With just keying the license to the MAC address.
Exactly. So we know that people have been doing this for a longer time, and of course, once you do that, you also want to adjust your RAM and other virtual hardware components, and that has always caused problems with the hardware IDs. So that it's no longer the case, and we fully support virtual environments now. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is about database updates. So we've added support for InnoDB tables in the Xinet Venture database. InnoDB is a storage engine. It's actually the default storage engine in MySQL since a while now. There's more storage engine than InnoDB in my ISAM. InnoDB comes with a lot of advantages over my ISAM. One thing you should know, and we're going to talk about those in a second, one thing you should probably know is that we've not turned on InnoDB by default, so you can turn this on via a command line option, a DB manager option, and if you do this, we convert 4 of the main tables. That's the file table, path table, keyword 1, and the event table. We convert those to InnoDB. If you want other tables to be converted from ISAM to InnoDB, you can do this by just giving the DB manager command the table name as well. Maybe one thing that's interesting is that InnoDB support is not recommended for every single installation, right? So it does come with a lot of advantages, but it also comes with some caveats. It does require more DB admin work. It does require more maintenance, but you should also, there are situations where you should see great benefits. In general, I think it's definitely a good thing to turn on, especially for the bigger installations.
Hey Timo, this is James. So for those really big sites that you know, have a very large tables like file tables and keyword 1 tables that are, you know, have a lot of incoming files, does this InnoDB update kind of help the trigger and actions reliability? In other words, the ability for the system to quickly see new files on the system and to get those triggers and actions fired for them?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it does. If you have a lot of files and a lot of, not just a lot of files, it's actually even more beneficial if you have a lot of traffic on the system, right? So if you have a lot of moving files coming in and out all the time, with a lot of triggers and actions, like all those events can just be processed a lot faster with in InnoDB tables. So I've tried to explain it here. So multiple sessions can read and write from the same table, you know, in parallel without having to wait for each other, right? So you will no longer see those queries being locked behind after others. So I'm sure people have seen problems in the past where a trigger was supposed to fire or, you know, set a metadata field on a file, but then that file was already moved by the previous action or stuff like that. All those things should improve drastically with the InnoDB storage engine. Right. So
that's really great. That's a big, I would say that's a big thing for sites with lots of files or large databases, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. We're really hoping to see, you know, give you guys a good engine here to improve things. So I've named it and mentioned it here again. Large installation, heavy traffic are expected to benefit most from this. Okay. Then usability enhancements. That's I've mentioned it before quickly. That has been one of the focus points with this release. So there is InnoDB support. There's the business rules engine in the backend, but there is also a lot of changes in the front end in the user interface, and I'm gonna walk you through those changes and also explain what we've done and why we've done these changes. So our new previously released standard interface called Marquee has been changed. We're making much better use of the real estate on the site, right? So you'll basically see a lot more images and assets on the same window size. We've come up with a brand new navigator here on the left, and I'm going to show you this in a second in a web browser. Completely rewritten the navigator. You can also hide the navigator away. We've completely rewritten our zoom engine, right? So you can zoom in into all our supported file formats. That includes InDesign documents, Word documents, movie keyframes, HTML files, like right, all those things. And that I think by itself is just really, really helpful and just enhances our annotation capabilities a lot. We've also changed the facets, the filters, Facets now work recursively. I'm going to explain in a minute what that means. We've added drag and drop uploads, and drag and drop uploads in Marquee mean multi-file uploads. So you can drag and drop more than one file into the upload zone and attach or metadata, and we packaged up and upload it. And we are reintroducing search result highlighting. So let me quickly.
And Timo, I just, before we go right into the demo here, I've had the opportunity to demo this a couple times already since it's been released, just a couple weeks now, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
it's really impressed me quite a bit. The user experience is much better, and from my perspective, the speed increase is also much better. So it's really the new interface changes have done a lot, and it feels like a very modern, very fast engine, and I really like it a lot.
Nice. Yeah, glad to hear that. So let's quickly launch my browser here. I'm running a standard Safari browser on my Mac, and I'm connecting to the standard Marquee site. Here's our top level Marquee site. I can still select whether to browse or search from top level. Once I'm here, just gonna quickly jump into one of the folders. So one thing that we've done is, so we call this the content area, right? So this is all the the area where we show in this case the content of this folder. So the content area and the navigation area are completely independent, right? I can show you later on if I have a deeper structure here. Maybe I'll do this, right? So this browses completely independent from this area. At the same time, we've moved those buttons up to the top here. So there, it doesn't matter where you are, you will always have the option to turn on, whatever is interesting for you or your clients, right? So if you're interested in seeing the modification dates or the action buttons or, the data fields, right? You can do this, and you can do this, doesn't matter if you're browsing through a really deep and large folder structure. That's totally fine to do. At the same time, we have added a new search menu. So there's our quick search here, and you can still make a decision on whether to search on file names only or everywhere. And the rest of the search components we've moved in this menu here. We can also now, right, so if the idea is like you've browsed to some area, maybe you've, you've applied some filters to the folder, right? So it's always a combination of, actual file system path and filters. And once you've made your selection, right, we felt like, okay, well, that's fine. You've already found what you're looking for, and now you can simply hide away that navigation bar on the left, and you've just, we're making use of the real estate and just, show all the assets in that selection without, having to have that navigation bar here on the left. Right, so I've mentioned it before, that navigation bar is completely rewritten. It's a bit hard to show, but it really does feel a lot more natural. So what we've done is, we're independently now, you can, flip open those folders here and close them. And this is independent on actually showing the contents, right? So if I'm interested in seeing the contents of this folder, I have to kind of highlight this folder, and this is when we load the content and show it in the main area. So this really feels a lot better and a lot more natural than before. All right, so what else? Let me just quickly jump back into a different folder. So better files here. Right, so in our details view, there's a few rearrangements going on here as well. So one of the things that we've done is we've moved the metadata area into its own tab, right? It used to be here below the preview image. This is where we've added general information about the file. Here's your dates, general image type, dimensions, color space, stuff like that. The metadata list, has its own tab. It goes here. It has all the space it needs. And this is, depending on what file you're looking at and what features you've turned on for the user. Here's all the other features that we show for per file. And quickly looking into the annotation view, if I browse in here, I want to quickly show you our new zoom tool. So that's really something I'm really happy about. So we do make use of the entire canvas here, right? So we're no longer limited to the dimensions of the preview as we've done this before, right? So you can actually now zoom into 200% for everything that we support, and it takes a while until we've re-rendered the picture, but here we go. And this also works in compare view as well. So, right, I can also do this in compare view, and if in this case I have a version or if I have an annotated version, right, I can make use of this zoom feature here as well. I think that's a really important step to make our annotation feature more usable. And as I said before, this is not just something that works on all the quote unquote normal image files that we support. I can quickly show you that it also works on any of the other file formats that we support. For example, if we quickly take a look at an InDesign document, for example, that's definitely something that's new. We can zoom into 200% on InDesign documents. We actually do zoom up to 2500% for everything that we render, right? So Illustrator files, PDFs, we can do 2500%. But here's an InDesign document, and this should help a lot, to see more detail on the InDesign spreads. If I go to the second page, I can do the same thing. Of course, it kind of starts with that pre-calculated size, and then once I've selected my dimensions, here we go. There's also, I'm sure we all know that we're supporting HTML and those weblog files. So this is where we, kind of make screenshots or screen dumps of URLs, basically. And this is something I found most interesting, and that's something that shows really well how the zoom function could be used. So here's the snapshot of the HTML page that we've done. And, if you zoom, you can zoom into 200% of that HTML page, and that's pretty impressive, I think. And then of course there's annotations here as well. There's some changes that we've done. We've updated some of the buttons to look more modern. We've added the user comment field here as well. So in addition to the annotation comments, we also have general user comments. So you can actually have a single thread about that asset, in the annotation area as well. So, whatever, single image or something, you can do that. And sorry, and it adds to that thread here, and it also shows up in that comment field here as well. So you can, that's just a different interface to the same comment area that I've shown previously in the annotation area.
And Timo, all these comments are, I think they're stored in their own table, is that right? And searchable from the search all?
That's right, exactly. So they're stored in their own table, they're searchable, yeah. And that's just a way to have, a single threaded conversation about the asset with, independent of any annotation. It's just a general thread about the assets.
Yeah, that's really great, and it's also a good collaboration tool that everybody expects these days. And I do want to make a comment that the metadata tab is really great, and that you have so much more real estate for metadata here, and so that really makes a lot of sense that you've done that, and yeah, I think that's really great.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Here's the pages. I'm not going to run through all the features that we already know about, but there's no changes here really. Right. The one thing I have on my list here, and that I think is really, really useful, it should help you guys a lot to find your assets faster and better, and faster find the stuff that you're looking for, is the recursive facets. So before this release, we've had the facets would only work on the folder content, right? So you'd had to use the file system based navigator to click on a folder, and now I've highlighted the folder and I'm loading the content, and then based on this, right? So I have I'm looking at all those files, and there are certain set of metadata fields available for those files, and now I could say, well, okay, out of all those files, show me all the ones that have this job number. Okay, and we'd filter on that job number, and here we go. Here's all the facets filtered on that job and that path. Problem with that is that you'd still have to browse to that folder. So if you're looking for an image or for an asset, you'd still have to kind of know where it is. We've removed this and made it much easier. So now it's enough to say, okay, I don't know. So somewhere in my North Plains marketing folder, right, I know that there is a job with a job name backbar brochure, right? And I click on it, and what the Solar Index will give me is basically it'll walk down recursively starting from this path, right? And it'll go through all the subfolders and recursively down to the very last asset, and show me filters or the filtered files based on the filter that I've set. I hope this makes sense. It's a bit.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And you could further refine this by saying, okay, for all those, whatever is approved or rejected or something.
Exactly. So now I could say, actually, I'm only interested in PDFs or something, right? And then it'll do that in addition to it.
Yeah. So essentially, in 2 clicks, you've found just all the PDFs for that particular job.
Exactly. And all like as a starting point, I was giving it, it's somewhere, right? It's somewhere in the North Plains marketing folder. North Plains marketing has, I don't know, 8 subfolders or so, and some of them have subfolders as well, but it doesn't matter, right? It's enough to give it a starting point, and then we populate all the filters available from that path down. So I think it's really great.
And what about dates? I think that is a difference as well. Are you able to search for like everything that's been modified in the last 7 days or something like that?
That's right. So any metadata field that's a date type field gets pulled out of this filter list, and we make this an extra button here because in theory it is really a data field, database field. And it is a filter, but it's a little bit different because it requires, you can't just turn it on or off. So it requires a bit more input, and we've just moved it here to have more space. So now what you can do is, right, you can filter on everything that's been modified within, there are some preset time periods here, or you can also have a custom range and say, everything that's been modified within, the last 3 days or so, and then, you set those. This date range here, and then apply. Probably I won't see anything now, but yeah. Right. If you had anything modified within the last 3 days, here we go. This is what you'd find.
That's really great, because very quick way to see everything that's been done in like the last week or something like that.
Exactly. And maybe it's worth mentioning too, it's not particularly new in 18.1, but you can also save those filters or those, you know, filters and navigation criterias. Okay, so you can say, okay, now I've, you know, every day when I log in, I'm looking for everything that's changed within the last day in my North Brains marketing folder, right? You can set up this criteria, and then you can save this search. We've called it Save Search, but essentially it's really like a bookmark. So you can bookmark this. It's not actually saving the results, but it's saving the search criteria. And then, you know, you can pull it up and say, well, okay, you know, I don't know, here's my marketing brochure search or bookmark, and, you know, here we go, right? I've put it back up, right? Here's all the filters. It not only combines filters, it also uses path, right? So it's a combination of filters and paths as well. Then, okay, I think we're kind of a little bit short in time. Just quickly, one thing that's we've also added is drag and drop upload, right? So here's your some way to you know, find your target folder. There's also a way to create a folder straight from here, right? From our breadcrumbs bar. You can create a folder and give it a name, my uploads or whatever, and then you upload in this folder. But you know, you also just normally, as you're used to, you browse to a folder. When you want to upload data, just click on the upload icon. Here's our upload area, and then, you know, you can just drag and drop you know, multiple files and then apply metadata to those files.
Now that's a big change, right? The ability to upload multiple files at once.
Exactly. So this is the first time we've implemented this multiple single files upload. It's important to understand that, and we're going to cover this in a few minutes. Xinet Pilot will also support folders as well, right? So you can drag and drop multiple files and multiple folders. And I'll explain later on why this is possible in Pilot and not in Marquee. I can say in Marquee it's not possible because generally browsers, standard web browsers, don't support folder uploads. There's one exception, Google Chrome supports it, but we didn't want to limit ourselves to that one browser, and, you know, want to stay compatible with a wide range of web browsers.
Okay, so it sounds like multiple files in Marquee and multiple files and folders in Pilot.
Exactly, exactly. All right, and then, I don't know, oops. Okay, all right, here we go. And here's the upload, and then when the upload is done, we'll, you know, attach metadata, and then, you know, we show files in our browser area, and, you know, all is good, and you can find it and search for it and filter it and stuff like that. Here we go, right? Takes a while until the previews are generated, and then when they're ready, they're ready. One thing I wanted also to highlight, what we've done in Marquee, is the search without highlighting, right? So you want to, if you submit a search, let's say planes, I think I'm gonna search on everything, right? It includes file names and text content and metadata values. I'll, you know, here's my search result. That's fine. But you know, if you mouse over and there's a text content match, we show you with this little tooltip that, you know, here's a match from the text content, and we also give you a link that would take you directly to the text content. Right. So I'll do this in a second. For everything else, we show you, okay, we've found this match, right, because there's planes in the file name, right? There's text content, there's planes in the file name, right? If there's a match in the data field, you know, we're also gonna show you that there's text in a data field. Looks like I don't have a match for that now, but so, right, so here's a text content match. If you click on the highlighted link, it takes you directly to the annotation view and highlights, the first match. So this is something that we've had in earlier versions of our interface, and that's been, incorporated into the Marquee site now with the 18.1 release. Okay. So I think I've covered everything that we've done for Marquee. It's at least all the new stuff. Actually, here's one thing. We are adding items to the collection, right? So what this does, no matter where you've browsed to and what you've filtered on, whatever shows in this content area. Actually, not only what shows in that content area, whatever the search results or the search results are, will be added to the collection, to the basket. Okay, so let's say you're browsed to North Plains marketing, right? And then I'm adding, I don't know, just for the fun of it, I'm adding a filter here. Then there's some content here, right? It might not load everything in the beginning, but if I click on add all items to basket, it'll actually take whatever is supposed to fit that criteria and add all the stuff to the basket. So that's new too.
That's great. And it seems like it's been a change from basket to collection. Is that right? So is that the same thing? Is what basket used to be? It's just a new name?
Exactly. It's the same thing. It's just a new name. So here's all the collection plugins, right? So there are the basket plugins. It's exactly the same stuff. Okay. So let us quickly go back to my slide deck and use our time to start talking about the new Xinet Pilot application, which I think is I'm really happy that we have it. It's a complete rewrite of the entire Pilot application. We've completely, kind of reused some of the things that we've done in Marquee and Pilot, moved it into the Pilot interface. There's a new visibility control. What this means is that you can, with a hotkey, with a keyboard shortcut, you can kind of move Xinet Pilot in the background and bring it to the foreground, and have shortcuts or not, and have like right mouse clicks to show it and hide it. So it behaves much more like a normal Mac application, which should, I hope, make it a lot more useful. We've also redefined its use case. We've seen that in the past it's never been defined really why we have Xinet Pilot and what it's there for, and how it's different to the normal web application, standard web browser application. And so we've done this. So in my view, Xinet Pilot is a work-in-progress tool. It's not customizable, so you cannot change the colors or add your logos. It's really a toolbox. Sorry, not a toolbox. It's a work-in-progress tool that you should use to, work with your files stored on the Xinet server. So, right, it provides searching, metadata tagging, like all this stuff. And of course, it also has the contextual menu functionality built in. So you can, once you've found your assets, you can, just with a single click, open them in InDesign or Photoshop or whatever application they open in. So that's, and that's different to the Marquee side. Marquee is more a presentation layer, and this is where you host your assets, and maybe you do this with your own assets or for your clients. And then, this is where you customize, right? This is where you brand your site. This is where you change colors, this is where you add logos, and this is where you, do all the fancy stuff. This is really, please view it as a work-in-progress application. We've also added responsive design for Xinet Pilot, and that makes it, I think, really cool and really useful. So you can really use it on a big 27-inch screen if this is what you want. If you have a second screen, or you can minimize the window size to a small palette size and use it in InDesign to drag and drop place your images. So that's, I think, really cool. As I mentioned before, there's folder uploads available for Xinet Pilot. And for the first time in Pilot, we are making available all of the collection or basket plugins, right? As well as archives, by the way. You can see archives now in Pilot. You can see, you get access to the basket plugins as well. Okay, I can let me just quickly log out here. Log out, okay. And I'm going to hide my Safari browser in the back end. Here's the little Xinet Pilot app. Double click on it. It gets installed with the normal client installer. Just quickly, so you can turn off that always in front behavior. It is very useful, and I can show you why. But if you don't like it, you can turn it off, and then it behaves just like a normal app, right? So if here's your browser, right, and then here's your Xinet Pilot app. If you highlight the the other window, it moves to the back, and that's just totally normal Mac application window behavior. But I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm also going to show you some of the new preferences here. So here is where you can set up a hotkey, right? A keyboard shortcut. In my case, it's Command Option P, and I can't show this in this screen demo now, but I have this shortcut to kind of hide and show Pilot, and that to me is super useful, especially if you use it for drag and drop placement, or just to use it as an extension to your file system to better get access and find your files. Okay.
Yeah, that's really great. Production user perspective, the ability just to use a hotkey to turn things on and off, no matter where you are, in any individual space or whatever application you're in. That's really great, just to be able to turn it off and on real quick.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this will really make this application useful, very useful. Okay, so here is again, just quickly, right? So what you can do, so there is now without an extra or right mouse click or an extra key, right? This is where you show and hide Pilot. You can also control click, right, to show and hide Pilot, or you just use the shortcut as well. I just wanted to hide this. Okay, here we go. Again, you'll probably have seen it. We're using parts of what we've learned in Marquee, and we've moved this into Pilot. That's a big benefit for us ourselves, just because we don't have to maintain two different sites. So that should improve things a lot in Q&A and engineering, right? And basically what this means is any of the new features that were built into the product, in theory, technically, are available in both Pilot and Marquee at the same time, right? It's not a completely different template set. It's just, styled differently, basically. Same thing, right? So this means also I can hide away the navigation bar here on the left. There's a list view as well. I think I've shown before. Well, here's a list view as well, right? That's also available in Marquee, by the way. Again, same functionality applies to navigation and filters. So I'm not going to go through this again. The one thing that is different, and it also depends on the window size that you're using Pilot in. If you click on one of the assets, there's a new metadata panel that opens up on the right. Okay, that gives you access to the metadata right away in Browse View. So what's really cool about this is, so you get, you have some basic information here in that info panel. If you don't want it, you can also close it and have more space to your metadata panel if you want to. But here now you can add more metadata and save it, and then once you're done with it, you can move on to the next file, right? And then add more metadata, right? And that's just a very, very convenient way to, quickly, not just find your files, but, also edit metadata to your files as well. I've mentioned before quickly responsive design. We did make use of that because we, wanted to make this pilot user interface available on big screens as well as on small screens. And this is why we've kind of changed behavior depending on what screen size you want to use it. For example, if you're on that screen size, right, you can click on the asset and we'll show that metadata panel, but we will not show the navigation panel at the same time. Or we show the navigation panel, but then if you want to show the metadata panel, we do, but we close the navigation panel, right? Because it just does not make sense to show both of those left and right panels at the same time and have the content area in the middle. So that just makes things a lot more useful. Again, if I'm on a wider screen, I can turn them both on, right? And then, do whatever I want to do, browse to my assets, and then, click on the files to get access to metadata. Of course, I also have access to what we call the details view, right? So here's the details view in Pilot as well. Same layout as what I've shown in Marquee, right? Here's general information, metadata, panels, and then, depending on the file type, all the other features available here as well. This also includes the annotation feature as well as zooming, okay? You have all this stuff now available in your Pilot application as well. Okay, so one thing I wanted to show, which I really love this. So if you make this small enough, right, it turns into a palette, right? So, I mean, maybe the idea is that, okay, you're looking for, I don't know, something, I don't know, for your nature and sports images, right? And then, once you've found your images, okay, fine, that's great. That's exactly what I need to build my InDesign layout, okay? So I'm doing this, I move this to the side. I can launch my InDesign InDesign app. Create this new document, right? And then, and this is where actually it becomes really useful to have this always in front feature, okay? So if you don't have this, you're always struggling with, this normal Windows behavior where, as soon as you click on the page, your browser kind of moves to the back end, right? So you don't have to do this here at all. So, right, I can so here's your full screen InDesign document, and here's a pilot that just kind of like floats on top of it, which is kind of really cool, I think. So, so here's your placing your images, right? Just normal as as you're probably already using it. Oops. Images, right? And then there's more. Really nice, I think, to have, Design a Pilot application be, like a few different things in one application, right? It could be your media browser, right, that you use to search and find files. And it could also be your InDesign palette as well, right? That's all pretty convenient. And of course, we've also kept the features to, right, once you have to quickly find or open the files, right? So once you've found your asset and you, I don't know, you just want to work on it and do your retouching work, you can quickly either open it directly here in Photoshop in this case, or just show it on the, oops, here it is, and the and the file system. That's just standard stuff, and here's the file that opens quickly now in Photoshop on my second screen. I'm just gonna, here it is. So I think a lot of features, a lot of things that we've built into Pilot are really useful and targeted towards creative users or production users. And right, this is also where we're going to go with this. This is going to have more features in the future, and is going to be more different to Marquee in terms of its positioning. Right, it's really supposed to help anyone who actually needs to work with the files, right, rather than just browsing and finding files. You know, this is made for people who actually, you know, do need to work with those files, and you know, we're trying to provide additional features that the Finder cannot provide.
Yeah, it looks like this is really addressing, you know, quite a few of the issues that were brought up by people when they started using Pilot, and yeah, this looks like it's addressed a lot of those issues, and I love the responsive layout. That's really great.
Yeah, me too. It's yeah.
And you said something about being able to drag and drop folders into here?
Exactly. So, right, I can quickly show this. So, of course, for those of you who don't know this, Pilot is a browser, right? It has a HTTP connection to the Xinet server. So what this means is I can not only use it internally, I can also, you know, use it externally as well. So I'm here in Germany, in Munich, and I could, if I have my Xinet Pilot application, I could, you know, view all those files and upload and download files to a Xinet server in London or, you know, San Francisco or something, right? Okay, so then we quickly, I don't know, I always keep browsing to the same folder, but yes. So here's my upload area. I can pick on the upload icon here. Just gonna use, right, so here's my, I can turn this off if I wanted to. Right, so here's my sample files, and there is, okay, whatever, some folder. I can also have a combination of folders and files, and you know, I just drag them into Pilot, right? And here's all the folders and files that I've dragged into Pilot, and now I assign metadata, whatever is set up in this case for the user, right? So there's a job name, a job number, and campaign name. And now I'm going to upload files. Right, now it's going to upload files. And what it's doing in the backend, because Xinet Pilot is an application that we control, it's packaging, it's creating a zip file, basically. It's creating an archive, and it's sending this archive to the Xinet box. It's extracting the archive, it's applying metadata to the archive, to the extracted files, and you know, renders previews and recreates the folder structure, and then you know, here we go at some point when it's done.
So that's really great, the ability to now drag and drop complete folders and even subfolders. Does that work as well?
Subfolders as well, exactly. It's really keeping or retaining the entire folder structure of whatever you give it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
All right. So there is, I think for Pilot, we've pretty much covered everything. Maybe one thing to mention that could be important is that, you know, because it's basically, you know, a version, or yeah, it's you know, it's kind of a Marquee site. We also made all the collection and basket plugins available to Pilot, so that should give a lot of benefits depending on, you know, how you use the product and what plugins you have. You can make use of them in Pilot now as well.
Yeah, particularly for production users that need to be able to like archive and restore from archives, I think.
Exactly, exactly. All that stuff is doable now through Pilot. So you don't need, I mean, you know, it's essentially it's up to the user themselves if they want to use Pilot or the web browser, but I kind of want production users to prefer Pilot over the web browser, because right, that's like the goal, to make it more and better for the production type users. Okay, so then I think we're running a little bit short on time. So here's a pilot. We're introducing a new business rules engine. And the business rules engine is a way to control access to your assets for specific users and groups, even on specific folders, based on a file name or metadata field status or folder name and so on. So one of the use cases I was trying to illustrate here a little bit is that, right, so this is what your file system looks like on AppleShare or on, without business rules. So there's some PDFs, there's a work in progress folder and some InDesign documents. And now you've turned on your filters or your business rules, and those filters will kind of hide away anything that's an InDesign document, maybe because we filter on everything that ends with an INDD, right, in the file name, or because of the assets have a certain metadata field set to a certain value that we use to filter stuff away. And the same thing applies to the folder. So the big benefit here is that you can control access for your users without having to change anything internally on your file system. Right? So this is really useful to better control access without having to actually move stuff around, right? You don't have to no longer use triggers and actions to move data in and out from an access area. I have a few examples set up that I wanted to show you. So now I'm as an internal user. Some things are slow here in my box. I don't know why exactly. Okay. As an internal user, I just want to quickly show you what the unfiltered display looks like. So here's a folder called Backbar Brochure, and then that folder is a typical print shop layout folder, folder layout. Yeah, this is not normal. Something is not right, but okay. And here is a folder. There's an InDesign document, 2 PDFs, fonts folder, links folder. That's just totally normally what you have. Now I've set up a filter, and that filter says, okay, in that folder, right, and this could be a general clients folder or a specific job folder, hide anything that's out of not in the interest of the client, right? So if I log in as a client user who's part of a different group, I'm only going to see the PDFs, right? On the file system, of course, we also have, here's my backbar folder, okay? Matches exactly what I see here. With the filter set up for a specific user, I can quickly show you how this looks like, and then later on I can show you how the filters work. So I'm a different user now. I'm a client user, and as a client user, I'm not gonna see, right? So here's my, it's called differently. Here's my Backbar Brochure folder, or my marketing folder, I think. Here's my Backbar Brochure folder. And in that folder, I'm not supposed to see anything, any of the InDesign documents or the font folder, nor the links folder, okay? And that's pretty powerful thing to do. You can basically control access for your users and groups without having to do anything here without having to move data away or on the file system. We don't have a user interface yet to control those filters and those business rules. So that's why I'm going to show you something a little bit cryptic. We'll have a filters setup interface soon. Just gonna show you the config file, which is an XML, JSON formatted config file. It's actually not all that terrible, but you know, so here's filters, right? Here's my filters array. I've enabled the filter. I've given it a name, hide InDesign documents. I can give it a description. I can turn it on for a specific group. And here's my match, right? So filter away everything. Here's a flag that says, you know, ends with a filter value. So sure, hide everything that ends with .indd, which is what I've done. And there's a prerequisite for that as well, to say, okay, but only apply this filter, like, you know, just for this group, and only if you're in a folder called backbar brochure. Okay, that's how easy it is. Same thing for links, right? So again, if you're part of this group, hide everything that I think equals a folder called links, but only in that folder. Okay. Same thing is true for fonts as well. I think there was one other folder that, you know, where I've set or filter on data field value, right? So I can say if I turn a field value, in this case field ID 129 is my approval status field. If I switch my approval status field to rejected, this will, you know, hide the asset from my client. It's as simple as that. Really, really powerful. I mean, yes, James.
Oh yeah, I was just going to make the comment. So, you know, it looks like if you want to do that today, you have to use this the code. It looks like are there solar filters? Is that what that is? Exactly.
It runs on solar. Exactly. So everything. So the idea is everything that you see in, you know, either the marquee or the pilot interface, everything that we show in the content area, in the navigator, in the basket, runs through this filter, right? So if this filter is set in this case for this specific user, I should never ever see anything that's an InDesign file, or that's a links folder, or that's a fonts folder. You know, in this case now it's you know, limited to that folder, but I can also make this a global setting as well.
Okay, so it sounds like today, you know, if anybody that's comfortable with that, that's great. If you're not necessarily comfortable with the code like that, then of course, you know, weak I/O integration can help with that. But it sounds like you're also developing a UI for this that would make it easier to do.
Exactly. That's one of the things that's going to come in the next feature release. We'll have a user interface to make it easier to set up those business rule filters.
Okay, great. We're coming up on the 1 hour mark here. So I think that's pretty much all we're going to have for today. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact myself or James directly. That's Damien at IO Integration, or james.word@iointegration.com, and we'll be able to follow up with any other answers you guys require.